The Brooklyn Nets had the busiest and loudest trade deadline of any team, this deadline and arguably of all time, dealing 2 All-Star starters in Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. Understandably, many outsiders came away from these moves thinking the Brooklyn Nets would plummet down the standings and out of the playoff race. However, I don't think that's the case. This Nets team is much better than people think. They have an emerging young star in Cam Thomas, other very interesting young pieces in Nick Claxton and Mikal Bridges, and some very high-quality veterans like Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, Cam Johnson, and many others. The Nets won their first post-deadline game over the Bulls last night and looked really solid, even without Claxton and Bridges, who are probably 2 of their top 3 players right now. They are a legitimate playoff team even after dealing 2 All-Star starters. To truly understand how the Nets can remain relevant, let's take a look at the trades that went down, what they got back, and then the other pieces that matter for Brooklyn. Before we get into the new look Brooklyn Nets, if you enjoy my content and have watched a few videos of mine, think about subscribing. 96% of my viewers are actually not subscribed, so if you've watched me before and enjoy the content, drop a sub and comment down below. It really helps the channel. Let's start with the Kyrie Irving trade, as it was the first domino to fall. Kyrie requested a trade last week and was traded within 2 days of his request, being rerouted to the Dallas Mavericks. The deal ended up being Kyrie and Markieff Morris going to Dallas, with Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, and the 2029 first coming back to Brooklyn. Kyrie is undoubtedly the best player in that deal, there's no way to argue that. However, Spencer Dinwiddie gives you a light version of what Kyrie does, which is displayed with his 25-point and 6-assist debut last night for Brooklyn. He's having a really solid season as well, putting up 18 points and 5 assists per game, while shooting 46% from the field and 41% from 3. He's not the player Kyrie is, but he'll play a part in replacing his production. They also added Dorian Finney-Smith in the deal, who is one of the best defensive players in the league. He adds to the many defensive studs that Brooklyn already has, and he can take any team's number 1 option. He also has shown the ability to shoot the 3 ball, shooting 39% from behind the line in each of the 2 seasons prior to this one. Next, let's talk about one of the biggest trades in NBA history, Kevin Durant being moved to the Phoenix Suns. I can't remember a time when a player you could argue is the best in the league when healthy was moved mid-season. The deal sent KD and TJ Warren to the Suns, with Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, who was later moved, and 5 picks going back to the Brooklyn Nets. Replacing KD will be even more difficult than Kyrie, but the shift in durability is really interesting. Kevin Durant has had his fair share of injury problems over the past few seasons, missing a ton of games, but Mikal Bridges is essentially an Iron Man, never missing games with injuries. Bridges is likely an even better defender than Finney-Smith, finishing 2nd in the Defensive Player of the Year voting last season, only behind Marcus Smart. He's also shown scoring potential over the last couple weeks that many didn't think he had. He's put up over 23 points per game in that span and could have an opportunity to do even more in Brooklyn. He was initially thought of as a 3-and-D guy, but he could become much more than that, maybe even evolving into a consistent 20-point per game guy to pair with his elite defense. They also got Cam Johnson in the deal, who isn't going to light up the scoreboard, but can hit plenty of threes for your team in an off-ball role. Now let's talk about the player that can keep the Nets afloat, their rising star, Cam Thomas. Earlier this week, he became the youngest player in NBA history to score 40-plus points in 3 straight games at only 21 years old. It came in the form of 44, 47, and 43-point performances. He had a really poor shooting night last night against the Chicago Bulls, as they threw Patrick Williams and Ayo Dosunmu at him regularly, and he struggled against their size and length, finishing the first half with 0 points on 0 for 6 shooting. However, he followed it up with a 20-point performance in the second half, making 13 free throws in the process. He has shown an ability to get to the line that we only see superstars display, and that can help him stay productive even when the shots aren't falling, because he does like to take really tough ones. He also started making plays for others after missing a few tough shots later in the second half, which is a really good sign for him moving forward. Next, let's talk about Nick Claxton, who has evolved into a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. For the season, Claxton is averaging 13 points, 9 rebounds, and a league-leading 2.6 blocks per game, while shooting also a league-leading 73% from the field. He's an elite rim protector, but is also quick enough to be completely switchable in guard positions 1 through 5. He presents a player with the upside of a prime Rudy Gobert on steroids, and if he continues to develop, he could easily be a perennial all-star and one of the top 3 to 5 centers in the league. I think people are finally starting to realize how good he is, and there's a decent chance he wins Defensive Player of the Year at only 24 years old. Now let's just talk about all the defense and shooting that Brooklyn has on its roster. Let's start on the defensive end. The team has 5 players who can guard the opposing team's number 1 option on any given night, in Mikal Bridges, Dorian Finney-Smith, Nick Claxton, Royce O'Neal, and Ben Simmons. The team is extremely switchable, and it'll be hard to find mismatches for the opposition, as the team is just stacked with elite defenders. Now let's shift to the shooting piece. They have a ton of snipers on this team now as well. Spencer Dinwiddie, Joe Harris, Seth Curry, Yuta Watanabe, and Cam Johnson are all elite 3-point shooters, with multiple other good shooters on the team as well. This team will be able to space the floor out offensively and hit the 3-ball at an extremely high clip, then clamp you up defensively on the other end of the floor. Many expected the Brooklyn Nets to be a bad team after trading both Kyrie and KD, which is fair, they're great players. However, this team is sneakily still really good. They're kind of like the island of lost toys, filled with random veterans, under-the-radar young studs, and no defined star player. However, the pieces fit together to make one of the league's most interesting and versatile rosters. I think the team is going to attempt to develop Cam Thomas into a star guard, giving him a lot of shots and minutes going forward, which I'm honestly really excited about. The team's defensive versatility, shooting, and unselfishness will make them a tough beat for any team and should keep them in the playoff hunt all season, especially considering they're already 11 games over 500. This team is legitimately really good. Thanks for watching. I'm Herm. Have a good one.